Hello everyone and welcome back to Mossy Bottom, my small holding here in the west of Ireland on what is officially the coldest day of the year. In fact, we are right in the middle of a week-long cold snap here in Ireland, with temperatures today set to fall to -7 degrees Celsius overnight and not more than -2 during the day, which is what it is right now. The narrow country roads around here where I live are covered in black ice right now. I've just been out to have a look, and the news is awash with warnings about the treacherous conditions, advising people to stay at home, which means me and my partner are not going anywhere for at least the next 5 days. Now, I know for many of you living in colder parts of the world, -7 in mid-December is positively balmy, but trust me, here in Ireland, it doesn't drop below freezing very often. So when it does, nobody's really prepared for it. The smaller roads, like mine, aren't gritted here. No one has winter tires on their cars, and, well, it's about as close as we get to being snowed in these days, which can actually be quite a nice feeling if you're well stocked up like I am. However, it has rather scuppered my plans in regard to this video. I was hoping to ascend a certain mountain with Moss in tow, but as I can't leave my little homestead for almost a week because it's too dangerous to drive, I've decided instead to hunker down, stay as warm as I can, and get ready for Christmas, which is only a couple of weeks away. And Christmas here at Mossy Bottom isn't a grand, ostentatious affair. I don't have a big tree, lights, or lots of presents, and I don't cook a huge feast or have lots of family nearby. But I do like to celebrate in my own simple and I hope more sustainable way, and I'm going to try and share some of that with you in today's video. So here's the plan. It's morning right now, it's very cold, and the first thing I'm going to do, as ever, is take Moss for a walk in the forest. But this time, I'm going to attempt to attach a GoPro to his back, which I haven't done for several years, though patrons may remember a video of my last attempt in which he ended up chasing a red squirrel up a tree. I remember that. I can't promise anything quite so exciting this time, but usually Moss never fails to entertain, so it should be interesting. I'm also going to be gathering some of nature's bounty on my route to make decorations with for my very humble living Christmas tree. More on that later. And I'll also be collecting some foods from my winter garden and my freezer with which to make a self-sufficient version of a Christmas dinner. There will of course be roast potatoes and Brussels sprouts. I've got plenty of those, all homegrown. But I'm afraid no roast turkey or goose, instead some homemade beetroot burgers, they're red at least. And for dessert, strawberry cake, made from my own strawberries and eggs, which I think tastes a heck of a lot nicer than the traditional Christmas cake, which I remember having as a child. Does anyone actually like Christmas cake? It's probably just me, isn't it? Usually is. We'll take this off. There's a good dog. Okay, let's go. This video is sponsored by Wren, and a huge thank you to their team once again for supporting my channel. Wren is a website where you can calculate your own carbon footprint by answering some simple questions about your lifestyle, and then offset that with a monthly contribution, which helps to fund carbon reduction projects around the world, like tree planting, mineral weathering, and rainforest protection. Reducing carbon emissions can also promote biodiversity and directly help people. Like this project in California, which removes dead and flammable trees, turning them into biochar and organic fertilizer. And what that means is less forest fires, which in California and other parts of the world are increasing year on year. Reducing forest fires means saving the lives and the livelihoods of people just like me, trying to survive in remote rural areas. The Earth's climate has been changing for 4.5 billion years. We've all seen the graphs. But the thing that's different in the last 100 is just how quickly that change has happened. It's unprecedented. And it's that speed of change which is right now causing such widespread devastation. People often say that carbon is a natural part of our atmosphere and should be there, which is absolutely true. Carbon dioxide makes up about 0.03% of our atmosphere. The trouble is, this sophisticated and finely balanced home of ours can't cope with such a rapid increase in that level. What in the past took millennia, we've done in less than a century. But the good news is that humans are without doubt the best problem solvers that this planet has ever seen, and there are solutions. And on the way to those solutions, there are ways to lessen the impact of that change on us, people, and on the natural world. Which is where Wren comes in, and the $4 million+ which they've already raised from people just like you who are in a position to do something positive and leave a legacy of accountability for future generations. That has got to be a good thing. Speaking of accountability, Wren certainly is too. Just take a look at their Trustpilot page or read through their financial reports as I have to see exactly what they've done with that money. You can offset your carbon footprint on wren.co right now, and the first 100 people to sign up using the link down in the description of this video will get the first month of their subscription covered by Wren for free. Take a look. This is gorse, which is still in flower in the middle of winter. Can you believe it? And these bright yellow flowers, for me, will forever be deeply connected with Ireland. This stuff is down every country lane in this country. And I reckon it might just make a lovely decoration for my tree. Better get picking though, I'll need a lot. The tricky thing about picking gorse flowers is trying to avoid getting your fingers pricked. This stuff is lethal. Ow, ow. I didn't do that just for the camera, by the way. This way. When it's this cold, it's really hard to operate things like these secateurs, so it makes any kind of job like this that much slower. Not that this is a job, really. This isn't snow, folks, it's ice. Ice crystals falling off the tree. Frozen rain. There are very few berries left on the trees at this time of year, and what few there are I want to leave for the birds. But I do have these, which are crab apples. And I've left these ones on my little crab apple tree here for this purpose in mind. Can you guess what I'm going to use them for? What does that look like to you? There's definitely a yellow theme going on with my decorations this year. I'll need some beetroot, of course, for those Christmas burgers, and I do have an array of colours in beetroot: orange, yellow and white, but as it's Christmas, we'll definitely go for some red ones. When it comes to beetroot, like most vegetables, usually it's the case that the smaller, the sweeter and tastier they are. Now for some fresh parsley, which is still growing outside, although I have to admit, not looking too happy with this frost. Whether it's still growing tonight when it's -7 is another matter, we'll see. But I'm going to pick as much as I can now for those beetroot burgers. Yum yum. And I have to say, it might be frozen, but it still smells just as good. I need the ingredient for roast potatoes next, and that's in the ground. And although there is a frost, it's only on the very surface layer of the soil. So the potatoes that are 10-15 centimeters below should be in perfect condition. We'll see. Let's dig. Yep. Take a look at that. Perfect. And of course, what would Christmas be without one of my favourite vegetables, Brussels sprouts? Ooh. Harvesting frozen Brussels sprouts is not as easy as you might think. Delicious. I could eat them raw. Oh, I can't wait to have them cooked up with some olive oil, well seasoned. Caramelized. Delicious. Those of you who purchased a Mossy Bottom calendar last year might remember the little Christmas card which I included, which featured in the background this, which is a little homemade wreath which I created and hung on the whitethorn tree here in the middle of this forest. And as yet, I'm pleased to say, this tree has not been cut down, although I think it is scheduled for next year or possibly the year after, so it is going to happen, sadly. And some of you suggested in the comments that I tie a ribbon around this tree, which is exactly what I'm going to do in the hope that people see it and don't cut it down when that day comes. In the meantime though, this wreath, which has definitely seen better days, it's looking a bit skeletal, although it does have a kind of magical wintry quality to it, I have to say. But I'm going to take it back and I'm going to try and resurrect it and create it anew for this Christmas. I've got that odd feeling of being really cold in my extremities, like my hands and my face and my neck, but being really too hot in terms of my core body temperature because I've got this really thick insulated coat on that's made for -20, so my body's really hot and sweating. My face and my hands and my toes to some extent are freezing cold, which is always the way it is in these cold temperatures, but we're really not used to that here in Ireland. And I have no idea where Moss has gone. He's disappeared as usual. That evening, me and my partner Angela set up shop in the cabin, turning everything that I'd gathered into Christmas tree decorations, or attempting to at least. Some worked, others didn't. Neither of us had done anything like that before, so it was definitely a challenge, but a very, very fun one. You can see I'm making a star for the top of the tree using beech twigs, which I then painted silver, while Angela in the foreground is taking those beautiful honey and rust-coloured crab apples and turning them into simple baubles with thread. Really effective, didn't take much work, and we got a lot of decorations. And the pigs will get a treat when we take the tree down. I then decided to try and make some pine cone characters, which I really wasn't sure would work, using more twigs for arms, lichen for hair, and the shells of beech nuts as little hats. All I needed then was some acrylic paint for the eyes and mouth, and they were ready to go. Meanwhile, Angela set to work on little garlands made from those gorse flowers threaded onto wire rings. I think the best part was figuring all this out as we went along, because we didn't really have a plan. We then took pieces of dried spruce bark which I'd gathered in the forest and painted various designs on them. Here you can see me painting Moomin Papa on one of them. What you can't see is my phone off screen, which I'm copying the picture from. We used green wire to make hangers, threaded through the pine cones, and here you can see my little creatures are no worse for it. I even attempted a pine cone mouse. And now the finished tree in the light of day. You can see more lichen which I gathered, Angela's garlands made of those gorse flowers, my little characters, I made 3 or 4 different ones, the painted spruce bark, and as well as Moomin Papa we also did some kind of leaf designs painted on, and my little mouse, and finally the finished tree. I'd call that a success, and because it's a living tree in a pot, we can keep it on and use it again the next year. The following day we set to work making our self-sufficient Christmas dinner. First laying out our bounty on the table, all harvested from the garden. Sprouts, potatoes, parsley and beetroot. We also had eggs and frozen strawberries harvested back in the summer. I peeled and chopped the potatoes while Angela did the same with the beetroot. In it went into the frying pan to cook until soft, while my roast potatoes went into a pan to boil until fluffy. And if you're wondering how I'm going to make roast potatoes without an oven, yes, I don't have an oven, then stay tuned. Once soft from frying, the beetroot, and we used 3 by the way, is mixed with a fistful of chopped parsley and about 800 grams of blended chickpeas, that's about 2 cans. And in case you're wondering, this recipe actually comes from a friend of ours. I've tried many different recipes for beetroot burgers over the years, and this one I reckon tops them all. We then added 3 handfuls of rolled porridge oats, mixing all the while. Followed by 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. And a generous amount of garlic powder, followed by salt and pepper to season well. And then the all-important spices. Paprika, first of all, cumin, coriander, and finally, cayenne pepper. At that stage, add 2 eggs and mix well. Onto my potatoes, which as you can see are roasting, quote unquote, in a frying pan. A pan with olive oil or sunflower oil, and a lid works almost as well as an oven. Just be sure to turn them regularly and add a smattering of flour to give a nice crisp skin to the potatoes. The finished product tastes very, very much like potatoes roasted in an oven. And then the fun part, making and cooking the burgers. If you've done it right, they should hold their shape really well. That's where the eggs help. And Angela has definitely done this many times before, so she really knows what she's doing. Now for dessert, and this was an idea which neither of us had tried before. Strawberry pudding made in a mug and cooked in a microwave. Why? Well, we wanted a cake, but we don't have an oven to bake it in, so this was the best thing we could find. First, melt 2 tablespoons of butter in each mug, add 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then 4 of plain flour, mixing really well. Then add a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/2 dozen or so mashed strawberries. You want them to be a bit lumpy. Keep mixing, then add an egg followed by a generous tablespoon of milk or some milk equivalent to each mug. And in hindsight, it probably would have been easier to make this as one batch in a food mixer and then divide it between the two, but I didn't think about that at the time. Once thoroughly mixed, cover all but a crack on the top, and we used a Tupperware lid to do this, then cook on full power for about 3 minutes. Here you can see Angela doing the prick test with a knife. If it doesn't stick, then it's cooked. Turn upside down on a plate and add a few more strawberries, and I promise you, it may have been made in the microwave, but as Christmas cakes go, and I've been forced to eat many over the course of my life, it was definitely the nicest I have ever eaten. This looks absolutely delicious, and I have to say, considering we made everything in just a few hours, I think the tree is pretty spectacular too. And best of all, it can all be composted or fed to the chickens and pigs when Christmas is over. I love that. In fact, I would definitely encourage everyone to have a go at making their own natural Christmas tree decorations. It's so much fun. And you really don't have to be artistic or crafty. We certainly aren't. And while the end result might not be quite as shiny or perfect as something that you'd buy in a shop, it's definitely a lot more satisfying, not to mention sustainable. Thank you as always for watching and supporting the channel in the many ways that you all do, and thank you also to the weather gods out there for freezing us in, without which I think this video would have looked very different. But it was a lot of fun, and best of all, we get an extra Christmas dinner this year. From me, from Angela my partner, from Moss who's outside, and all the animals here at Mossy Bottom, take care and bye for now. See you in 2023.